It is possible for any teacher to have confidence in the classroom by following these 3 easy steps.
Anyone.
Even me?
Yes, anybody. But I'm going to be honest, it's one of the hardest things to master as a teacher because it's one of those soft skills, right? And so it's not quite as easy as just following the exact formula. But I tell you what, we're going to break it down for you into 3 steps so that way you become the master of your classroom and develop that confidence. Now, I've been teaching for 20 years, and at this point in time, being in front of the classroom was like second nature to me, but it wasn't always that way. I was struggled with it greatly in the beginning. And to be 100% transparent, it took me probably longer than most teachers. It took me about 7 years to finally feel comfortable in front of that class. But man, once I did, things only got better from there. Now let me kind of lay out the 3 steps for you. The 3 steps are this. You got to prepare, number 1. Number 2, you got to put the reps in. And the third thing is you got to make a conscious decision to get better every single day. Once again, a lot easier said than done. But let me dive into a little deeper detail about each one of those things. But you got to understand the background of what it actually means to be confident to begin with. Like I said, it took me 7 years to get to the point. And so there is a process to it. And so teaching at this point in time, I think to myself, when did that happen? How did that happen? I'm able to reflect back upon those early years. And here's what you have to understand about self-confidence. When you develop self-confidence in anything, it is done this way. It is done by you making promises to yourself and holding to it. If you do that time and time again, make promises to yourself and hold to it, that is how you build confidence. And that's how you build confidence in yourself. And when you do it long enough, that actually becomes part of your identity. And that's when it really is solidified. And that way you can take it to any situation and be okay. So first understand, confidence is developed, is grown, it is created by you promising things to yourself and following through on that. So with that said, here's our number 1 thing. Prepare. Prepare, plan, organize, put it all together. The more, I remember I had to give a speech way back when, and I think it was in college or in high school, and I was so nervous. And so the best way to help for all of that nervousness was to prepare. Now I had to get rid of everything. Oh man, I was still nervous. But the more you prepare, the better you are to go in a situation, the more relaxed you're going to be. All right, so prepare. So what does that mean for teachers? Well, let me lay it out for you. Here are some things you need to do in order to prepare. First of all, lesson plan. Now, I created a whole entire video, and I'll put a link down below about that as well. But I spent 2 hours just going through every single thing of how to lesson plan. And the reason I spent so much time on that, because if you do that, if you put a great plan together of lesson planning, it's going to show in the classroom. And it's going to help you be more confident in the classroom because you know what, you plan everything out. You know exactly how things are going to unfold in your classroom. So first thing is lesson plan, and lesson plan in detail. All right, that's the first thing you want to do, prepare. The second thing is you never leave your classroom unless you're ready for the next day. I cannot tell you how many times I've done that and it has blown up in my face. The next day comes and I'm scrambling either to make copies, I'm scrambling to try to figure out what to do. And what that translates into is me being in front of the class, is me being in the classroom unprepared, and with that, a sense of uneasiness. So plan out as much as you can, 100%. Plan out everything, lesson planning, 100%. Make sure you got that down. And then don't leave that day until you prepared for the next day. The third thing you can do to build that confidence, the third thing you can do to be prepared is establish routines and procedures. That should be the bedrock, that should be the mantra of your teaching. You want to develop routines and procedures for everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. The more you have routines and procedures to put in place, it's going to take the weight off of your shoulders because you can plan, you can predict what's going to happen. You have a process for handling different situations. And just give you a quick idea, here are some routines I have. Passing out paper, collecting paper, grading, getting Chromebooks, behavior in class, participation. The list goes on and on and on and on. So develop those routines and procedures. And the fourth thing you want to do to be prepared as possible is reflect. you want to reflect on every day. I would just take a few months to reflect how that day went. So that way you can plan, adjust for the following day, and eventually for the following year. So the more time you spend reflecting, the better off you're going to be, because then that way you start tweaking things and planning things better for the upcoming days, weeks, months, years, and so forth. Now, I know reflection is a tough one, because especially if you're a first year, second year teacher, you are just trying to stay alive, stay afloat. And I understand that. But if you can just carve out a little bit of time to do that, it's going to pay dividends in the long run. The second step is you got to put the reps in. That's it. That is, you got to put the reps in, because once again, building confidence is you make your promises to yourself. That's kind of the lesson plan. That's kind of the prepare part. But the second part is you following through on what you promised yourself. That is the reps. That is showing up in the classroom and going through the motions. Now, it's so easy. It's so easy, because looking back now, because I've been doing this a while. But I see how hard it actually is. I remember I had a student teacher in here, and I was following what they were doing, and I forgot exactly how much stuff comes at you as a teacher. I forgot just how overwhelming it could be and how quickly it could become overwhelming. But you got to stay in there. You got to stay in there. You got to take those shots. You got to swing that bat. You got to put things into action. You got to reflect. You got to put the reps in. And so what does that mean? Well, once again, for me, first year, second year teacher, if I'm 100% honest with you, these are going to be your busiest years ever. You're going to go home exhausted every single day, because every day you're learning something new. Every day you're working on improving. And please hang in there. The first year or two are so overwhelming, but it does get easier as you go along. So the first year, second year teacher, plan on putting, honestly, 10 hours, 12-hour days in for the first year or 2 year, because the more time you put in now, the easier it's going to be later on. And you want to get past that learning curve, because there's a learning curve. You're going to get past it, because once you get past it, things get so much more enjoyable in the classroom. So you got to put the reps in. So you plan everything out. Now you show up and you carry through on your plan. The longer you do it, you're going to find it becomes easier, and easier. You're going to find out what works, what doesn't work. And things, at some point in time, they just start to click. For me, 7 years, please, I hope that's not you, but I'm a little slower than most people. But for you, honestly, you can put 1, 2, 3 good years in, and by the end of that, you got a good little system in place, and you got a nice flow. But you got to put the reps in. You got to do that. You got to show up, and you got to be committed for a year, 2, 3 before you really start to get a flow of things. And the third step is this: you got to make a conscious effort to get better each day. It sounds like, that's obvious. But man, at the end of the day, when you are worn out, or before you even go into class and you're nervous and you're worn out from the previous day, it is hard to make that conscious decision to like, hey, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to try today. This is what I'm going to be thinking about. This is going to be how I'm going to react. Man, it's so hard. It is so hard, but you got to do it. The more conscious decisions you make about being present in the moment and having that confidence in the classroom, the quicker you're going to get to that point. For me, this is going to sound crazy. It's going to sound like I'm making this up, but it's so true. Of course, I'm married and I have my wedding ring, but I have like 3 or 4 different wedding rings. They're kind of the silicone, right? And what I would do is before I stepped into class, or before class started, I changed my wedding ring. And I made a conscious decision to do that. And when I changed my wedding ring, mentally in my mind, I played out this little scenario of I was becoming a superhero. You know how they change their outfit on to become that superhero? That's what I was doing. Every time I changed my ring, I made a conscious decision. This is how I want to be in the classroom today. Now, it didn't always play out that way. It played out that way more often than not, or not. It didn't always happen. It just didn't always happen. Things went crazy in the class, and I'm not saying things are going to be perfect, but by making that conscious decision, I was more prepared. I was more ready for the students to come in and to have that confidence. So I did all the preparation. Boom, had as much preparation done as possible. And then I had my ring changed there. So I was in the moment conscious. All right, this is what we're doing this period. This is what we're going to do today. This is how I want to be. And then I went through the process. And then finally at the end of the day, I reflected upon everything. You do that enough times, you're going to start to develop confidence. So those are the 3 steps. So with that said, hang in there, you got this, and remember, we are stronger together.